"She's not going to call you Dad," she said, holding the wrench like a weapon she didn't know how to use. I had barely stepped through the door when she said it, like it had been rehearsed in her head 100 times, maybe more. I didn't answer right away. The faucet behind her hissed its complaint. Water had started to pool at the base of the cabinet. She looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept in days, but tried to pretend that everything was manageable. Her son wasn't in the room, but his toys were scattered everywhere, like breadcrumbs leading back to a life she was trying to hold together. I crouched by the sink, turning off the valve, letting silence take the place of urgency. Only then did I say it. I never needed that title. She didn't reply. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed tightly around herself like she didn't trust her own body to stay upright. Her hair was pulled up in one of those knots that looked accidental, but was probably the result of 5 separate decisions. She didn't have time to finish. I don't want you to think that's what this is." I nodded. "I don't." She watched me like she didn't believe me, but maybe wanted to. I focused on the faucet. Something in it had rusted through. I'd need a new piece from the basement. Nothing urgent, nothing complicated. Just one more thing in a long list she didn't have the energy for. "I didn't even want to ask," she said, softer now. "I just didn't know who else to call." There was no apology in her voice, just exhaustion. "I'll be right back," I said. When I returned 10 minutes later, she was sitting on the floor, legs stretched out, head leaned back against the cabinets. Her eyes were closed, not asleep, just away. The kind of stillness you only get when the rest of your life is noise. "I used to fix things myself," she said, when I knelt beside the sink again, "before, when it was just me and him." "You still do." She opened her eyes. "Doesn't feel like it. Feeling and fact aren't always the same. I wasn't trying to make her feel better. That wasn't my job. I wasn't there to rescue anyone. I was just fixing a sink." But something in the way she watched me, cautious, unsure, but not closed off, told me she was waiting to see if I'd ask for more than I gave. I didn't. She offered me tea after, which I declined. Not because I didn't want it, but because I knew she needed the space to offer something and not feel like it cost her. At the door, she stood behind me, arms still crossed. "He asks about his dad sometimes," she said. I waited. "I don't know what to tell him." "You don't have to tell him everything, just what he needs for now." She nodded. Her eyes were clearer than before, but no less tired. "You always like this?" she asked. "How's that?" "Calm, like nothing rattles you." I gave a small shrug. "Maybe I just hide it better." She almost smiled. Almost. "Thanks," she said. I left without saying anything else. Some things don't need to be named to be real. The second time she called, it wasn't urgent. Not really. A cabinet hinge had come loose. The door hung slightly crooked, like a tired shoulder carrying more than it should. She didn't say much over the intercom, just that if I had time, she'd appreciate it. I had time. When she opened the door, Lucas was perched on the couch with a blanket wrapped around him like a fortress. He glanced at me, then returned to his cartoon, disinterested in the man with the toolbox. Nicole looked better than the last time, less like she was bracing for something, more like someone just learning how to exhale again. "Thank you for coming," she said, stepping aside. "I know this isn't in your job description," I shrugged. "Neither was the last time." She gave a faint smile. There was something different in her tone, though, less guarded, but still measuring, like every word passed through a filter labeled, "Don't assume too much." The hinge was simple enough. I knelt, unscrewed it, realigned the door. She hovered nearby, not watching the repair, but me. Not out of suspicion, more like curiosity layered with uncertainty, like she was still trying to figure out what I wanted in return. "You live alone?" she asked after a stretch of silence. I nodded. "Yeah." "No kids?" "No." "Did you want any?" I paused, not from discomfort, but because I knew she wasn't asking out of idle curiosity. She was drawing a line somewhere in her head, trying to decide if I belonged on one side or the other. "I used to think I did," I said. "Then life happened. Things shifted. I stopped measuring myself by what didn't." She absorbed that, carefully, like someone who'd built a life around absence and didn't quite trust someone who'd made peace with it. Lucas laughed at something on the screen. She glanced over, softened instantly, then looked back at me. "He's a good kid," I said. He's everything." She didn't say it with pride. She said it like it was a confession, as if having someone mean that much to her was dangerous. I tightened the last screw. "All done." She looked at the cabinet door, then at me. "You make things seem easy. Most things are. People just complicate them. That's a nice way of saying I overthink. I wasn't talking about you." I met her eyes. "But maybe you were." There was a beat of silence. Not awkward, just present real. "I made coffee," she said suddenly. "If you want a cup." This time I said yes. The kitchen was small, lived in, dishes in the rack, a crayon drawing pinned to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a turtle. She poured the coffee into mismatched mugs and handed me one without ceremony. Lucas padded into the kitchen, dragging the blanket behind him. He looked up at me, then at his mother. "Is he staying?" Nicole hesitated. I answered for her. "Just for coffee, buddy." He nodded solemnly, then sat on the floor with a toy truck. No further questions. We didn't talk much after that, just sipped in quiet, surrounded by the small sounds of a house that wasn't mine. When I stood to leave, she walked me to the door again. This time, she didn't say thank you. Just stood there, like maybe she didn't know what to say. I said it for her. "You're doing better than you think." She blinked, caught off guard, then nodded. "You always know what to say." "No, just what needs to be said." Then I left, quietly, without looking back. It was almost 10 when I saw her. The hallway was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after the last light's been turned off and most people have given up on the day. She was sitting on the steps just outside her door, arms around her knees, head tilted back against the wall. She wasn't crying, but her silence had weight. The kind you don't interrupt with questions. I didn't say her name. I just sat down 2 steps below, not beside her. Enough distance to let her keep her space, close enough that she knew she wasn't alone. "I put him to bed early," she said, voice flat. "He asked if I was sad. I said no." "Was that true?" "No." She didn't explain. I didn't ask. Some answers don't need to be spoken. They just need to be sat with. There was a long pause. Not uncomfortable, just full. She stared at the opposite wall like it held something she couldn't name. Her fingers fidgeted with a loose thread in her sleeve. I stayed quiet. "You ever feel like everyone else got the instructions and you're just winging it?" she asked. "All the time." She exhaled a dry laugh, the kind that wasn't really laughter at all. "I used to think I was strong, independent. My mom always said I'd never need a man to take care of me." "You don't." "I know." Her voice cracked a little. "But God, sometimes I want someone to just be there, not fix it, just not leave. I'm here." She looked at me then, really looked. Not through me, not past me, at me. "I don't want you to think I don't. Needy or desperate or—" "You're not." That shut her up. Not in a bad way. More like something unclenched inside her. "You're easy to talk to," she said after a while. "I don't talk much. Maybe that's why." We sat like that for a long time. A neighbor's TV buzzed faintly through the wall, the kind of late-night show people watch just to have noise in the room. Her breathing started to slow, even out. I could feel the shift in her, like she'd let herself settle for the first time all day. "You think some people just aren't meant to be loved the way they need?" she asked softly. "I think some people were loved wrong for so long they stopped asking." She nodded slowly. "That sounds familiar." I waited. There was more. I knew there was more. "I stayed with him too long," she said. "Not because I loved him, because I thought if I left I'd prove everyone right, that I couldn't hold it together. You held your son. That's more than holding it together." Her eyes welled, but the tears didn't fall. She wiped them quickly, more out of habit than shame. "You're not going to offer some cheesy line now?" she asked. "No." "Good." Another silence settled in, this one lighter. She rested her chin on her knees. The tension in her shoulders had softened, just enough to be noticeable. "I should go inside. I'll wait until you do." She stood slowly, legs stiff. At the door, she turned to me. "You're strange. I get that a lot." Then she went inside. I waited until I heard the lock click, then got up and walked away. It didn't happen all at once. That's not how trust works. It came in pieces, slow and unannounced. A nod when passing in the hallway, a quiet text asking if I had jumper cables, a knock on her door when I noticed her mailbox overflowing. I didn't push, I didn't wait, I just kept showing up when it made sense. One afternoon, I found Lucas sitting alone in the building's front garden, trying to fit 2 plastic dinosaur legs back into their sockets. He looked up at me, serious and frowning. "He broke," he said. I crouched beside him. "Can I take a look?" He hesitated, then handed it over. The toy was worn, one leg cracked from too many falls or maybe just cheap plastic. I bent it back into place slowly until it clicked. Lucas's eyes widened like I'd done magic. "Better," he said. "Still wobbly, though." He held it close. "That's okay, he's still good." I nodded. "Yeah, he is." Nicole appeared a moment later, breathless. Relief crossed her face when she saw him with me. "I only turned around for a second," she said. "He just walked out." He wasn't far. She knelt to check Lucas, who looked completely unconcerned. "You scared me," she murmured into his hair. He didn't answer, just clutched the dinosaur tighter. She looked up at me. "Thanks." I shrugged. "He fixed it. I just helped." We didn't say much else. She walked him back upstairs and I went on with my day. But after that, I noticed how her door started staying open a little longer when I passed by. Sometimes when she saw me coming, she'd ask if I wanted to stay for a minute. Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I didn't need to. One night, I saw her struggling with grocery bags in the parking lot. I didn't ask if she needed help. I just took half without a word. "You always do that?" she asked. "What?" "Show up right when someone's about to drop something." "Only when it matters." She smiled, just slightly. "You're consistent." "I try." Inside her apartment, she set the bags down and leaned against the counter, watching me as I stacked the cereal and canned soup in the cabinets. There was something quieter about her now. Not softer. She'd always been soft, but less defended. "You don't act like someone waiting for something back," she said. "I'm not. Most men I've met don't work that way." "I'm not most men." She didn't respond, just kept looking at me like I was a puzzle she didn't expect to want to solve. Lucas peeked in from the hallway, then ran to me without hesitation. He tugged at my hand. "Come see my truck." Nicole's eyes widened. "Lucas." "It's okay," I said. "I'll come." He pulled me to his room, showed me a red plastic truck with a missing wheel and a sticker half peeled from the side. He told me it went faster when I was watching. I believed him. When I stood to leave, he grabbed my wrist, then let go just as quickly. "Will you come back?" I didn't answer, just nodded once. That was enough. Nicole met me at the door. She looked at me. Really looked. "Why are you doing this?" I didn't pretend not to understand. "Because I can." She swallowed hard. "Don't make me hope for something that won't last." I kept my voice steady. "Then don't hope. Just let it happen." And I left. It was raining the next time she opened up. Not the kind of rain that makes you rush, the kind that makes you stop. Nicole had called because the hallway window in her unit was stuck open, letting in water. By the time I got there, she had already tried to fix it herself. Screwdriver still in hand, hair damp, patience thinner than usual. "It's jammed," she said. "I tried everything." "You didn't have to," I replied, setting down my bag. "That's what I'm here for." She stepped back, arms crossed, shivering slightly. I got to work without commentary. The lock was bent from pressure, maybe years of careless use. It took 15 minutes, maybe less. When I turned to tell her it was done, she was sitting on the floor, knees drawn up, eyes unfocused. "You okay?" She gave a small, bitter laugh. "That's a big question." I sat on the opposite wall, still giving her space. She didn't look at me, just stared ahead like she was watching something that only existed inside her mind. "I used to be good at this," she said, "the whole solo mom thing. Waking up early, packing lunches, smiling through meetings, hiding the panic. But lately, it's like everything takes more effort than it should, like I'm underwater and no one notices I'm not breathing right." "You're still doing it badly. Still counts." She finally looked at me. "Everyone says I'm strong. My friends, my sister, even the school counselor, they all mean well, but it feels like another thing I'm not allowed to fall apart from. Like I have to keep being strong so they're not disappointed. You don't owe them that. And what about Lucas? He needs you." Not your perfection. Just you. She swallowed, voice quieter now. I'm scared that I'm not enough, that he'll grow up and remember a version of me that was always tired, always distracted. He'll remember you showed up, that you stayed, that you loved him more than anything. Silence settled again, not heavy this time, just necessary. She let her head rest back against the wall. You're not like anyone I've met before, she said. I get that sometimes. You don't rush me. You don't try to fix me. But you're there. I'm not here to rescue you. I know, she said. That's why I trust you. I didn't move. Neither did she. The rain hit the glass in a steady rhythm, like something trying to soothe the day. Her voice came again, softer than before. Sometimes I wish someone would just say, I see how hard you're trying. Without advice, without follow-up. Just that. I see it, I said. All of it. She blinked fast, but didn't wipe the tear that slipped out. Maybe because it felt earned. Maybe because she didn't have to hide it with me. Lucas called from the other room. She stood slowly, steadying herself like someone returning to battle. Before she left the room, she turned back. Thank you, she said. Not for the window. I nodded once. That was enough. She walked away. I stayed a moment longer, then gathered my tools and let myself out. The rain had stopped, but everything still smelled like it had been waiting to be washed clean. She called me on a Tuesday. Her voice was quiet, not shaky, but low in a way that told me she hated asking. I have a parent-teacher meeting at 6. My sitter cancelled. I don't want to bring Lucas. It's complicated. You want me to stay with him? I asked. A pause. Just a second too long. Then, would that be okay? Yes. She let out a breath. You're sure? I wouldn't have said yes if I wasn't. She left the door unlocked for me. When I arrived, Lucas was already in pajamas, sprawled on the floor with coloring books and a half-eaten apple. He looked up, surprised, then grinned. Hey, you came. Looks like I did. Nicole came from the hallway adjusting her earrings, simple ones, but I noticed she rarely wore any. I'll be back in an hour, maybe a little more. Take your time. She hesitated, not because she doubted me, because it was hard to trust anyone with something you built from your own bones. If he asks about his dad, she said, just change the subject. I will. She nodded, then left. No drama, no last instructions. Just trust, handed over like something fragile. Lucas showed me his drawings, narrated entire scenes with voices. We built a tower with blocks and knocked it over twice, laughing both times. He asked if I knew how to make grilled cheese. I said yes. He didn't ask for one, but it mattered to him that I could. Later, we sat on the couch while he told me about a dream he had where dinosaurs wore shoes. His eyelids started to droop halfway through the story. He leaned against my arm without asking, without ceremony, just chose the space like it had always belonged to him. He was asleep before Nicole came back. She opened the door slowly, looked at us, then at me. Her eyes softened, but her mouth stayed in a tight line, like she didn't know how to say whatever was pressing inside her. Bedtime was easy, she whispered. He didn't even fight it. She walked over and looked down at him. He hasn't done that with anyone else. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She brushed his hair back gently, then took a seat on the other end of the couch. We sat in silence, the kind that isn't empty, but full of unsaid things. Her voice was quiet when it came. I didn't expect this. This. You. Him liking you. Me not being afraid of that. You were afraid? She nodded slowly. When someone helps you, really helps you, it creates a kind of debt. Not the kind you repay with favors, the kind that makes you wonder what they'll want later. And what if I don't want anything? Then I won't know what to do with that. I leaned back, letting the moment stretch. You don't owe me anything, Nicole. She looked at me then, not with fear, not even with gratitude, with something steadier. I know, she said. That's what makes this different. Lucas stirred but didn't wake. She rose to carry him to bed, arms practiced and gentle. I stood to leave, but before I reached the door, she stopped me. Would you come again? If I needed someone, I would. She nodded once, as if sealing something she wasn't ready to name. Good night, Samuel. Good night. I walked out into the stillness of the hallway, and for the first time, it didn't feel like I was walking away. It felt like I was walking towards something. The next few days passed without a call. No texts, no knock. I didn't take it personally. Sometimes closeness makes people step back, just to see if the ground still holds. I saw her in the lobby that Friday. She was holding Lucas' hand and talking to the building manager about a leak in the laundry room. When she noticed me, something in her face shifted. Not quite a smile, but the idea of one. Lucas let go of her hand and ran toward me without hesitation. "Samuel!" he shouted, like the name had been waiting in his throat all week. I crouched to meet him. "Hey, buddy, miss me?" He nodded, then whispered, "I told my teacher about the grilled cheese." Nicole reached us then, her eyes flicking between Lucas and me, measuring the distance that no longer existed. "I didn't know he remembered," she said quietly. "Kids remember everything," I replied. We didn't say more. The manager walked off, and she followed me outside without explanation. The sun was out, but the air still carried the chill of a reluctant spring. We sat on the low concrete wall near the entrance, Lucas circling us on his scooter. "He's been asking about you," she said. I figured. I didn't tell him to stop. "Why would you?" She looked down at her hands. "Because it's easier when people don't stay. When they leave, there's nothing to explain. But I didn't leave." "No," she admitted. "You didn't." A pause, long and deliberate. "He asked me last night if you were part of our family," she said, her voice tight. "What did you say?" I didn't answer. I didn't know how. "You don't have to define everything right now." She looked at me, eyes heavy. "But kids need clarity. They need consistency more." Lucas skidded to a stop in front of us and handed me a dandelion. Not picked neatly, ripped at the root, petals uneven. I took it like it was gold. He smiled and scooted away. Nicole watched him, her voice nearly a whisper. "He trusts you." "I trust him back." She exhaled slowly, as if something had been living in her chest too long and was finally leaving. "When he was born, I thought I had to protect him from everyone, even people who meant well, especially men. I didn't want him to grow up waiting for someone who might leave again." I didn't flinch. "You don't have to explain that." "I know," she said, "but I want to—" Silence stretched again. Comfortable now. Lucas began making ramps out of the sidewalk cracks, narrating each jump like a sportscaster. "You scare me a little," she admitted. "Because I haven't walked away yet. Because I'm starting to believe you won't." I let her words settle, grounded by their weight. "I don't make promises I can't keep," I said. "And this, us, him, this isn't a promise, it's a decision. And I've already made it." She nodded once, as if something final had clicked into place, even if she didn't know what to do with it yet. Lucas came back, winded from his own race. "Can Samuel come with us to the store?" Nicole looked at me. "Do you want to?" "Yes." Lucas cheered and grabbed my hand. She didn't stop him. This time, she let it happen. It was a Saturday morning when she called, not with a request, but a question. "We're going to the bakery. Want to come?" Simple words, but they meant something now. I said yes. When I met them outside, Lucas was already waiting at the gate, bouncing on his toes. He took my hand again, without asking, like he'd been doing it for years. Nicole saw it happen, didn't flinch, didn't smile, just noticed. That was enough. We walked without rush. The city hadn't fully woken up yet, and the air still smelled like fresh bread and car exhaust. Lucas talked the whole way, about dinosaurs and dreams and why jelly donuts were better than chocolate ones. I nodded in the right places, let his words fill the silence. Nicole didn't speak much. She didn't need to. At the bakery, she ordered 3 coffees and a milk. Lucas pointed at a cookie shaped like a lion, and I added it to the tray before she could say no. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't stop me. We sat outside on a bench too narrow for 3 dice, so Lucas climbed into my lap. He didn't ask, didn't hesitate, just settled in and munched on his cookie with a kind of peace I'd only seen in children who felt safe. Nicole watched us both for a long time, then finally spoke. "I used to imagine a family looking like something out of a magazine. Matching clothes, Sunday lunches, laughter at the right times. And now? Now I wonder if it just looks like this. Quiet, uncomplicated, Honest. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I was afraid to let someone new in, she continued. Not because of Lucas, because of me. Because of what I become when I care too much. What do you become? Exposed, hopeful. That's dangerous. It's also human, she smiled. The real kind. The kind that doesn't ask for attention. Lucas leaned back against my chest and yawned. You're warm, he mumbled. Nicole looked at him, then at me. He doesn't do that with anyone. I'm not anyone. No, she said softly. You're not. We stayed there a while, sipping coffee, watching people pass. The kind of moment you don't plan but remember later, when everything else gets loud again. As we walked back, Lucas held one of my hands and one of hers. At one point, he looked up at me. Are you gonna stay for dinner? I looked at Nicole. She met my eyes, didn't answer for me. If that's okay, I said. Lucas nodded as if it had already been decided, and then, without fanfare, he said, I'm glad you're ours. Nicole froze, just for a second, then looked straight ahead. She didn't correct him, didn't qualify it, just walked a little slower as if the words had weight. I didn't say anything either. There are promises we make without speaking, choices we live into, not because we have to, but because we want to. The evening she told me about Lucas's father, it wasn't planned. We were sitting on her balcony, both holding mugs of something warm we weren't really drinking. The night was quiet. Lucas had gone to bed without protest, worn out from a day of running and laughing and belonging. Nicole spoke like someone peeling off a bandage she'd forgotten was still there. He left before Lucas turned 2, said he wasn't built for that kind of life. Like fatherhood was something you step into only if it fits just right. I didn't interrupt. I waited, at first. Thought maybe he just needed space, time. But people like that, they don't come back. They just leave in a way that makes you feel like it's your fault. She looked down into her cup. I used to lie about it, say he lived far away, that he traveled for work. It made other people less uncomfortable, but it made me feel like I was doing something wrong every time I told the truth. Truth doesn't owe anyone comfort. I know, but sometimes I do. We sat in the quiet that followed. No pity, no advice, just space. I wasn't broken when he left, she continued, but I became something else, harder, quieter. I didn't even notice it happening. One day I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who was staring back. Just this version of me who survived things instead of living them. I see you, I said. Not the version, the real one. She turned toward me, face half lit by the soft balcony light. You always say the right things. No, just the honest ones. She didn't look away. You haven't asked what this is. I don't need a label, but I do. Okay, she waited, then said, It's not a rescue. I don't want it to be that. It isn't. And I'm not a project. I've never treated you like one. She nodded slowly. I just need to hear that out loud sometimes. You're not something to be fixed. You're someone to be known. She exhaled, and something shifted in her, something less guarded, more real. I used to think love came in grand gestures, dramatic apologies, passionate arguments, all those movie moments. But now, she looked toward the hallway where Lucas slept. Now I think love is in the quiet, in someone staying when they don't have to. In not being afraid to sit with you while you fall apart. It's choosing every day. Yes. Her voice was almost a whisper. Choosing. We didn't touch, didn't move closer, but something passed between us anyway, something settled and slow and certain. When I stood to leave, she didn't follow me to the door, just watched from where she sat, eyes soft and sure. I'm glad he has you, she said, and not because he needs a father, but because he needs someone who stays. I'm not trying to be anything he's missing. I know, she said, that's why it matters. I nodded once and left into the quiet night, her words sitting with me like a vow neither of us had to speak aloud. It was late, later than usual when she knocked on my door. No call, no warning. Just her, in a hoodie 2 sizes too big and socks that didn't match. Her face was tired, but not worn down. More like she'd finally stopped bracing for something. I couldn't sleep, she said. I stepped aside. She walked in like she had before, not tentative, not apologetic, just real. Lucas was at a sleepover. That's what she told me as she sat on the couch and tucked her legs under herself. He was so excited. He didn't even kiss me goodbye, she said with a small laugh. I waited 10 minutes in the parking lot just in case he changed his mind. Did he? She shook her head. Not even close. We sat in the quiet. There was no rush to fill it. She watched the steam rise from her tea, then looked up at me. I think I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. I raised an eyebrow. I mean with you. For the catch. The moment you'd pull away, or ask for something I couldn't give. And what changed? I realized you weren't trying to take anything. You were just giving space. Her voice softened. That's rare. I didn't answer. Some truths don't need echoing. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, crumpled, drawn on in every color marker you can imagine. She handed it to me. Lucas's handwriting, large and uneven, stretched across the top. To Samuel. A backwards S, a drawing of 3 stick figures, one tall, one medium, one small, all holding hands. He made it yesterday, she said. Didn't show it to me until bedtime. Said, it's for him, you know, in case he forgets we're his. I looked at the drawing longer than I meant to, not because I didn't understand it, because I did. I didn't correct him, she whispered. Not the name. Not the meaning. I wouldn't have wanted you to. She placed her tea down, untouched. You told me once you didn't need the title. I meant it. But if he gave it to you someday, on his own, would you take it? I looked at her, and there was no hesitation left in either of us. I already have. We didn't kiss. We didn't make promises. We didn't try to define what this was with the sharp edges of language. We just sat there, both of us holding a piece of something that didn't need to be explained. After a while, she stood. I should go, she said. I walked her to the door. She paused before opening it. Thank you, she said, for not leaving. I never considered it. She smiled, the kind that doesn't try to be anything but true. Good night, Samuel. Good night, Nicole. She walked into the quiet hallway, and I closed the door behind her, slowly, gently. Not like the end of something, more like the beginning of something that had already begun a long time ago.